Hey 7th graders, welcome to Chapter 3, Lesson 2. In this lesson, our objective is to be able to add integers. So, title, Adding Integers. Standards we're going to be addressing, lots of standards happening in this lesson, so make sure you write these standards down, number systems, and equivalent expression standards. Let's go ahead and start our lesson. One of the things that we're going to talk about is adding two integers with the same sign. To add integers with the same sign, all you do is add the two numbers and keep the sign the same. So, if I'm adding two positives, my answer should be positive. 4 plus 7 is 11. That's a positive 4 plus a positive 7 equals a positive 11. Two positives equal a positive. On the other side, we have negative 3 plus negative 4 equals negative 7. This is two negatives adding, and they're going to equal negative at the end. So two negatives, all you got to do is add the two numbers, 3 plus 4, that's 7, and keep the sign the same, negative 7. So anytime we're adding two numbers of the same sign, the sign stays the same. Positive plus a positive is a positive. A negative plus a negative is a negative. All we got to do is add the two numbers and compute. 4 plus 7, 11. Negative 3 plus negative 4, negative 7. Alright, our next part is about the ability to add numbers with different signs. So to add numbers with different signs, take the number with the bigger absolute value and subtract the number with the smaller absolute value. So we need to remember absolute value from lesson 1. Absolute value is how far away a number is from 0. So the number that has a bigger absolute value is going to subtract the other number that has a smaller absolute value. What you do at the very end is you keep the sign of the one that was bigger. So, 9 plus negative 4. So the signs are opposite. What I would do is I would say the absolute value of 9 is bigger than the absolute value of negative 4. So I'm going to take 9 minus 4. Well, 9 minus 4 is 5. So my answer should be a positive 5. In this one, we have negative 12 plus 5. And so we look at it and we say, the absolute value of negative 12 is 12. The absolute value of 5, 5. So 12 is actually the bigger absolute value. 12 minus 5 is 7, and 12 was negative, so my answer is negative 7. So what we do is we take the bigger absolute value minus the smaller absolute value, and then we keep the sign of the one that was bigger. And that's how we add numbers with different signs. Let's go ahead and practice in today's lesson. In our first example, we're going to be taking negative 3 and adding negative 2. The first thing we could do is we could actually draw a picture of what this might look like. So if I had negative 3, what I could do is I could draw 3 negative counters. So I have 3 negatives, and I'm going to add 2 more negatives. So I'm going to add 1, 2 negatives. So if I have 3 negatives and I add 2 more negatives, I have a total of 5 negatives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would actually equal negative 5. We could also show it on a number line. Negative 3 would be right here. And if I'm at negative 3 and I'm going to add negative 2 more, I'm going to go down 2 more. 1, 2. So if I go down 2 more, that's going to bring me to negative 5. So a negative 3 take away 2 more would bring me to negative 5. So my answer would be negative 5 in this piece. So we can show it on a number line, or we can draw it out in a picture. Algebraically, it looks like this. If I have a negative 3, and I add negative 2, all I gotta do is follow my rules. 2 negatives make a bigger negative. So I add the numbers 3 and 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. And I keep the sign the same. 2 negatives make a bigger negative. That's my answer. So if we don't always remember this, we can always draw counters and kind of say how many negatives we have. And then we can do this, or we can draw a number line. These are 3 different options that we could do to help us out with adding numbers or adding integers. In this example, we're taking negative 6 and we're adding negative 3. So I could do the color counting method, and I make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have a negative 6, and I'm going to add 3 more negatives. Well, if I have negative 6 and I add 3 more negatives, I get negative 9. So this is one way I can do this, because I have 6 and 3. 6 and 3 make 9 negatives. The other way I can do it is I can do it mathematically. Since I have two negatives adding, two negatives make a bigger negative, so I just add 6 and 3. That's 9. So negative 9 is my answer. And the last way that we could do this is the way that we were showing earlier, is we can actually look at a line graph, or a number line. We can look at a number line and we can plot our points. So here we have negative 6, and we're going to go down 3 more from negative 6, because that's what it says. We're going to add negative 3. So negative 6, 1, 2, 3, negative 9. Negative 9 would be my answer. So again, these are 3 different methods that you could do to figuring out how to add 2 negatives. And we're going to practice with number counters in the classroom, so don't worry about that. So in this example, we're adding a negative 26 plus a negative 17. These are a little bit bigger, so if you were doing the counter method, it's going to be a lot of counters to make. We're going to have to make 26 negatives and 17 negatives. We could also do the number line, but it's going to be a really big number line to make. So hopefully we're starting to understand that in order to add 2 negatives, what we got to do is add the 2 numbers and keep the sign the same. So we're going to add 26 plus 17. And we're going to keep the sign the same. So in this case, this is 43. 6 plus 7 is 13. We drop the 3 down, carry the 1 for the 10 over to the tens place. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So 26 plus 17 is 43. But since we're adding 2 negatives, it becomes a bigger negative. So negative 43 is my answer. Same type of example, we're going to add 2 numbers. If you feel like you can do this on your own, please by all means pause the video, try this question. We're going to go ahead and solve it. So we have a negative 34 plus a negative 21. That's 2 negatives. So we have negative 34, so we're going to write 34. 34 plus 21, because 2 negatives is going to make a bigger negative, so we can add these together. 4 plus 1 is 5. 3 plus 2 is 5. And a negative make a bigger negative. So a negative 34 plus a negative 21 is a negative 55. And that's my answer to this problem. 2 negatives make a bigger negative. Alright, in this example, we're going to be adding 5 plus negative 3. One of the ways that we can add 5 and negative 3 is we can plot them on a number line. So we're starting with 5. And then we're going to add negative 3. So if we're at 5 and we're adding negative 3, that's like taking 3 away. 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be adding negative 3, which is going to take us to this number here. So 5 plus negative 3 should be a positive 2. Now we can also do this by using counters. Since 5 is positive, we could write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positives. And 3 is negative, so we could write 3 negatives. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put these together. Anytime we have a positive and negative, they'll cancel each other out. So, positive and negative, positive and negative, positive and negative. So these guys are now gone. But we still have 2 left. So 5 plus negative 3 is equal to 2. And the last way that we could do this is the way that we were talking about at the very beginning. Whenever we're adding 2 numbers that are different, we take the absolute values of both. The absolute value of 5 is 5. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. We figure out which one's bigger. 5 is bigger. So what we're going to really do is we're going to do 5 minus 3. 5 minus 3 is 2. And we're going to keep the sign of the one that was bigger. Well, 5 is bigger, so this means that our answer is a positive 2. And if you look, we have positive 2 here, positive 2 there, positive 2 there. We've got 2 everywhere. 2 is our answer. That's how we do this. We can do it with number counters, we can do it with the number line, or we can do it mathematically. In this example, we have 8 plus negative 7. So we would kind of do what we did in the previous one. We're going to start at 8 on a number line, put a point. This is where we're starting. But now we're going to add negative 7. So if we're adding negative 7, that's like going backwards by 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So right here would be adding negative 7. So our answer should be a positive 1. We went 7 back. We started at positive 8 and we added negative 7. So we go 7 back. Well, we can also do it the counter method. So we have 8 positives. And we have 7 negatives. And what we know is every time we have a positive and negative, they're going to cancel out. So this cancels, this cancels, this cancels, this cancels, this cancels, cancels, and cancels. That means we have 1 positive left. So a positive 8 plus a negative 7 is a positive 1. The last way we can do it is the final method. We look at the absolute values. This is 8, this is 7. And since we know 8 is bigger, we're going to do 8 minus 7. Well, 8 take away 7 is a positive 1. And 8 is bigger than 7, so we keep the sign as a positive. So our final answer is 1. Now we're going to look at some that maybe a number line and maybe counters isn't the best option. And maybe we want to use the absolute value method. We take the absolute value of 1, take the absolute value of the other, and take the big number minus the small number and keep the sign of the one that's bigger. In this example, we're going to take negative 35 and we're going to add 26, positive 26. So we're going to put those together. Now, we're not allowed to use a calculator on this, so we need to follow our rules. We could make a number line, but that's going to be a really big number line. We could even draw counters if we want to, but it's going to take a lot of time. So what we can do is we can look at these and we say, what's the absolute value of negative 35? How far away is it from 0? Well, it's 35 spaces. What's the absolute value of 26? It's 26. So we say, which one's bigger? 35 is bigger. So what we do is we take 35 and we subtract 26. We need to remember to keep the sign of the one that's bigger. If I took 5 and I tried to take 6 away, I don't have enough. So I'm going to borrow a 10 from the 3, and I'm going to change the 3 to a 2. That 10 is going to go back to the 5, and now it's going to be 15. 15 minus 6 is 9. 2 minus 2 is 0, so I don't have to write anything down. So my answer is 9. But what type of 9? Well, that's important. Well, this is a negative 35. That's a positive 26. 35 is bigger. So my answer should follow the sign of the bigger number. 35 is the bigger number, so my answer in this one is a negative 9. We took the absolute values of both of them, we took the big number minus the small number, and kept the sign of the one that's bigger. That's how we add numbers with different signs. Let's do one more. In our final example, we have 42 plus negative 56. We're going to take the absolute values of both. 42 is 42, and negative 56 is 56. 56 is bigger. So what we need to do, since we're adding, is we're going to take 56 and subtract 42. 6 minus 2 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1. So my answer is 14. And so we need to look at this and say which one was bigger again. 56 was bigger, so my answer is negative 14. And that's how we do this problem. That's it for today's lesson. I hope you guys are understanding this. We're going to work with some color counters. We're going to make some number lines. And we're going to make sure we're getting this before we start doing it without those. So, I hope you had a great day. And I will see you tomorrow.